I am excited to introduce you to the latest star of the Team Developer family. Please welcome Team Developer 6.2. I'm your host and speaker, Martin Tietz, and I'm going to show you all that is new about Team Developer 6.2 in this webinar. Team Developer 6.2 is all about fun and productivity with the enhanced IDE of TD 6.2. You will get a lot of new .NET power and XAL power with Team Developer 6.2, and I'm going to show you things like 64-bit applications, web services debugging in just a minute, and beautiful applications and functionality for rich business applications. With Team Developer 6.2, you can create rich and powerful multi-tier business applications that are ready for the future. Let's start with more fun at work. The new IDE of Team Developer 6.2. Many things that make working with Team Developer more fun, like all the Team Developer files will be shown when you open files, not only one file type like APP or APT, and you would need to change the file type to see the all other files. Well, that's really easy now. A new Find All search option. With the Find All search option, you can search all occurrences of a search term and then get a list of the found occurrences, and you can basically click into every occurrence and jump to that code position. You have direct access to the Team Developer community and all the samples thereon, and to the support forums. In the outline, you can now select multiple child objects and then assign those to a tab page via menu. You can rearrange the IDE outline tabs to create a view of the source code that you are working on that you like. The message node will expand when you double click on an object in layout mode, so you see the code that is behind a message. Attribute Inspector shows the SAM messages or user messages or both, depending on what checkboxes you check. Also, Team Developer.net automatically cleans up the temporary compilation directory for you, so you don't have to do that manually anymore. So let's have a look at the file open dialog. As you can see, it shows APP, APL, APD, APT files, so you can choose from all of these with ease. The help menu has new menu items for the SQL Windows community and SQL Windows support forums. Just click on those and you get there. On the community, you will find many samples for TD 6.2 now. In the Team Developer IDE, you can now select a bunch of objects and then right-click and choose Assign to a tab page to quickly assign objects to a tab page. And you do that, this dialog will open and you can choose the tab page you want the objects to be assigned to. Here is the new Attribute Inspector Messages tab. You see the new checkboxes on top there. Basically can choose from them messages, so system messages or user messages, or both or none, of course. And here's the new Find All dialog, where I did search for the term audit, and you see all the results are displayed in a kind of grid window. You just double click on one row and it takes you there where you can edit the code line then. So the Team Developer 6.2 demo. Let me show you how you assign objects to a tab bar now. And then you will see a few other things of the IDE as well. So rearranging the tab pages of the outline. Now here, this application, we have a tab bar with two tab pages, and then we have a push button and a data field. And if you now go ahead and select those two push button and data field and go to Assign to tab page, then this dialog comes up and you can choose the tab 1, tab page, add to tab page 2, and now again, assign to tab page, remove from tab page 1. So basically what I've done now, I've removed the objects from tab page 1 to tab page 2. Let's run the sample, and the objects are now on page 2, as I did with this new quick assignment method in the outline. Okay, let's open this again. I'm sorry, I wasn't in layout mode. I did run the application and clicked on my phone. Wasn't good. So if I double click on that button, then I go there and the code opens, but there is no code here. So, but those are a few nice things about the TD IDE that make working with TD 6.2 more fun and really exciting. Let's go back here to the slideshow and see what else we have. More .NET features and other powerful APIs. You get 64-bit .NET applications. You get 360-degree .NET debugging, and I will explain and show you the details of that in a minute. You get to define your own custom exceptions on .NET. You can pass exceptions from .NET to Win32, or basically receive .NET exceptions from Win32 calling applications. And here's a few images of these features. Here are a few images of these features. Though the build dialog has been enhanced with the advanced settings dialog, where you can define that you want a 32-bit target, a 64-bit target, or an auto target. Auto target means that at runtime, the application decides at what bitnet it will run. Could be that the application runs on a 32-bit Windows only, and then it will decide to run in 32-bit. Could be that it's a 64-bit Windows only, like Windows Server 2012, then it will decide to run in 64-bit mode. So let's have a look at a few samples. 64-bit .NET apps. I've prepared a simple application here for you. And basically the grid sample. And let me show you the build settings here. In the build settings, you see you can compile to a 32-bit or 64-bit or auto applications. For the moment, I want to leave it as a 32-bit application. And now compile this application and run it. So it's compiling that .NET application and executing that .NET application. Now it will open the application window. So here's the application window. And now let me show you in Microsoft Process Explorer what bitnets this application has. So this is called grid state, and you see here this line grid state is a grid state exe is a 32-bit application. Okay, let's go back to the application and close that. Now go back to the project menu and to build settings. Advanced, change it to 64-bit, and that's really all you have to change here to make it a 64-bit application. And now I built the new gridstate.exe. I do have to create a new application here because the debug mode of Team Developer .NET uses 32-bit applications. So I need to create a compiled application here and then start the exe to see that it's really a 64-bit application. So here's gridstate.exe, which has just now been created. Double click on this application here, and it will launch the WPF.exe. Looks exactly the same as the 32-bit application. Now let's have a look at the Process Explorer and see the gridstate.exe now is a 64-bit application. So just one click in the settings in the build dialog, you change an application from being 32-bit to 64-bit. No, we don't want to change it. Don't want to save it. Go back to the slideshow. Now let's go to .NET Assembly Debug. I have a nice sample here of an application, which is a TD 6.2 application that includes calling a .NET assembly and the .NET assembly is written in C#. So basically, in this application, if I press this concatenate button, so if you see that code here, then I'm calling my .NET class concatenate my string. That's what I could write in C#. That's how much I know about C#. And you see that in libraries, there's a symbol include simple.NET assembly here, and below global declarations, external assemblies, you see the class definitions of that. So it contains a class which does concatenate my string, and it has an input parameter and an output parameter. So basically, it returns a string, and we pass it two strings. So now, to debug that, let me set a breakpoint here on that push button, toggle here, and now go into debug mode. Compiling the application, launching the application in debug mode. And now, as soon as I press the concatenate button here, it should stop at the breakpoint which you see here. And now I can step through my code or step into the code, and you see it opens a source code view of the C# class that is being called. And now let me step further here, and you see the code line in the C# code that is being executed. Another step, and you see it now has returned the value and is executing the C# code. And if I continue here, then I go back into Team Developer, and I have received the concatenated string from the C# DLL, and I could step through the C# code from Team Developer here. That is pretty cool, right? So where's the slideshow? Then we have web service debugging. And you see that is not a link here. Just web service debugging, there's one thing that you need to do. You need to launch Team Developer, the web service part, and need to run Team Developer as administrator, because the web service processes are not being run under the current user account, but by a Windows system account. And to be able to attach to the web service, you need to run as an administrator. And now from Team Developer in administrator mode, I need to open the web service provider, and my web service provider is in C, inetpub, www root web services, data types, and this one is my web service provider code here. So it should open that one. Now it's open. Now I will launch my testing environment from Internet Explorer, which I'm just calling a simple web services that has a string as input, and that web service returns exactly the string that you put in. So the return from the web service, you basically see the XML file that has been returned from the web service, or the XML structure, and that is what I have entered here. And that opens in a new tab in Internet Explorer. Now I want to see what's going on inside the Team Developer web services while I'm calling this one here. So I have to go into the code here, look at the class definitions, and see where the code is that is actually being executed. And the code that has been executed is this one here, in-out string. That's the web service operation that I have been calling from the browser now. Now I can set a breakpoint here, toggle. Did it work? Yes, it worked. And now there's one more thing I need to do, and that is in debug, I need to attach to the web service. And this attach to web service only works if you run Team Developer as administrator. Now let's go back to the browser window and execute this web service again. And you see it's not returning the string right now, and you see a Team Developer blinking here at the bottom, and you see that the code is executing here and has stopped at the breakpoint that I have defined. And now, for example, I can move onto the variable name and it will show me in the tooltip, it will show me the contents of this variable, which is meet and greet Team Developer 6.2. So this is how I can debug web services now. And if I press continue here, then the web service return comes into the browser interface here. So a quick look at how to debug Team Developer.NET web services. Then I was talking about custom exceptions. Let's look at this example here. In Team Developer 6.2, you can define your own exceptions, and there is a new outline item called named exceptions here. In that .NET application that I opened here, I did define an exception, and I named the exception terrible things have happened. And then there are exception variables. There's one which is the default one, which needs to be there, the S message, which is the general exception message. But you can add additional exception variables and pass additional messages into your own exceptions by adding here more string data types, for example. And then at the runtime, you can provide those exception messages. Now here in this application, I have two push buttons. One is a simple on them click, and on them click, you see that new throw statement here. Throw is a new SQL Windows language item, and after the throw statement, I pass in the name of the exception that shall be thrown. Terrible things have happened, and then we pass in the number of strings that are defined in the exception above. So basically, when I press this button, this .NET exception with this error message will be displayed. And the other one is a little bit more enhanced. That one shows kind of nicely how your own exception handling can work. This one is the generic .NET exception. This will trigger the generic .NET exception. But when you add your own exception handling with when exception, and when exception, if the last exception equals this one, terrible things have happened, then I do a SAR get last exception. I get the exception itself, and that returns the exception message, which is the standard message. But I also can get the additional exception tag using the call SAR get last exception field. So that one returns the additional exception parameter, and then in the message box, I will display that error. So let's run this. So that basically these two buttons that I mentioned before, throw user defined exception unhandled. So this is a standard .NET exception that's now coming up, and that standard exception only shows the default exception string here. But if you handle those exceptions, then you can bring up messages that show the default message plus the additional message that has been passed into the exception, and those can be multiple ones. So you can have very detailed application error handling using those new .NET exceptions in Team Developer 6.2. Now, there's one further thing with exceptions. You can also have Win32 exceptions. Sorry, not Win32 exception. You can have Win32 applications. This application here is a Win32 application. Let me show you that. It's a Win32 build type here. And that Win32 application calls a class in a .NET assembly. And you see there's a library include error-prone lib.apl. And in my window, there's a push button which basically calls a method in that class. The class is called don't call this, which basically triggers an exception on the .NET side of things. And then that exception will be passed back into the Team Developer application. And let me show you how that works. You basically have a SAMNet exception message on Win32, and then you can retrieve the last error and display an error message in Team Developer Win32. Let's run this, and if I press this button, then you see the dialog box here. It's not a .NET exception, it's a team developer dialog box with the title bar that you see here, plus the .NET error coming from the exception. And you see that error text is in German because I'm using a German .NET installation here. So that's the error text is coming from .NET, but the dialog is created by team developer, and that is running a Win32 application that receives the .NET exceptions. Okay, so pretty powerful things. Let's sum up the debugging again. You can debug team developer.NET DLL now. Debug team developer.NET web services. You can debug non-team developer.NET assemblies like I showed you with where it opens the C# window. And the one thing that I didn't show you is you can debug TD.NET code from Visual Studio, and in Visual Studio it will then allow you to step through team developer code. So that's the only part that I'm not going to show you today. That will be a special debugging webinar that will be coming later. Other things in Team Developer 6.2.NET. You can now allow your users to edit, translate resource files and load them on the fly. So basically, if you have customers in Japan, for example, and you don't have a Japanese version of the application, you could put all the resources in an XAML resource file, give them that file, they can translate that, and at runtime you can load that file. You don't need to have that, before you needed to have that resource file at compile time to compile a language-specific version. Now you can choose that at runtime by loading the resource file at application runtime. You can create nice .NET assemblies so that you can support deployment of the assemblies in the global assembly patch of .NET or Windows. Other new APIs include override the web service URL at runtime. That is quite handy because if you start writing an application that consumes a web service, and that web service might be deployed on a testing server. Later, you want to deploy that on a production system, and you need to change the web service URL. So you can do that from your application code now without recreating a new web service interface DLL. You have functions to convert strings to binary and vice versa. You have a function to get the environment information, and functions to convert local time to UTC and back. And a new open file dialog that allows you to select or to choose multiple files in one bunch. So again, a quick demo. The time and date functions. So this application basically has several date time pickers and push buttons that if you press on the push button, then it will convert the date from local time or from UTC to local time. So this one, for example, is SAL date to UTC time. Or the other one here, which is the complementary function, SAL date to local time. So this one takes UTC time as input and converts that to the local time of the system it is running on. Now, quite simple. I have date time pickers that show the local time. Here, the bottom date time picker shows the UTC time computed from the local time. And now I press this button and it converts the local time, which is 5:24 p.m. to 3:24 p.m., which is the current UTC Greenwich time. And the other way around as well. UTC 3:24 to 5:24, which is the current local time. New APIs. With Team Developer 6.2, you can now leverage the SQLBase no log wait data reading. The isolation level is called read commit. You get superior multi-user performance because nobody needs to wait on for Xlogs to be released anymore. And there are 3 sub-isolation levels of those, which are SQLBase RC1, RC2, and RC3. And all those do work with Team Developer 6.2 now. Here's a demo of that. Now this is actually a pretty advanced database demonstration, really. Now let me run this. I do have SQLBase 11.7 64-bit running here on this machine. And now what's going to happen is that there's a transaction 1, transaction 2, and then a second transaction 2. In transaction 1 in release log mode, I will update the city and commit that update. And in transaction 2, there was a select issued, and you see that this time here, and that's the interesting part, is not changing. And here it's not changing either if I execute a new SQL command. Now in RC1 mode, updates to a table are not coming through during a transaction. In SQLBase RC2, the same scenario, and now watch the time here, is not changing here, but as soon as I issue a new command, I execute a new SQL transaction, I'm getting the updated data from this update here. So during a transaction, you can receive changed data that has been changed by other transactions. Or this one is the more the highly volatile version of it. As soon as you do any SQL command, like SQL fetch next, for example, this will change. So watch again the timestamp here. And with next fetch, it already got the new data coming from this update. Now this is quite interesting for multi-user behavior, because that can speed up your multi-user SQL applications quite a bit. Now let's come to the GUI part of things in Team Developer 6.2. GUI controls. You get a very exciting new ribbon bar. You get a new progress bar. You can put multiple charts in one chart control that share one x-axis. You can put chart watermarks into charts, and you can now dock dialogues to dialogues, or dock objects to dialogues. So here's how the new ribbon bar can look like. And you see there's a number of different objects that can be displayed in a new ribbon bar. Here's the source code image of the definitions of a new ribbon bar. And here's the progress bar. So basically a complete new progress bar that replaces the Visual Tool Chest C-meter and gives you a lot of flexibility in a very nice looking new control. You can have here you see a charting control that has 3 charts in one control that all share one common x-axis but have each their separate y-axis. And here's the chart watermark. Here's a sample of a modal dialog that has dialogue stock to itself. So this is good, for example, if you want to have the same toolbars presented to the user in all of your windows, including dialogues. Previously, that was only available in MDI windows and form windows, and now you can have all these toolbars in dialogues as well. So the new ribbon bar, a very flexible, high usability ribbon bar, easy to design. Actually, we have the first IDE having easy to design and implement ribbon bars. Yeah, you get a wide choice of child controls, different sizes and different visual representations. Multiple ribbon. So here are all the child controls of the ribbon bar. Multiple ribbon tabs, multiple groups per tab, large drop down, small drop down, trays to align small items horizontally, 1 large item per column, 3 small items per column, large button, small button, large option button, now it's a toggle on off button, small option button, checkbox, radio button, data field, and combo box. So a very rich new ribbon bar control here. So here are some images of how ribbon bars can look like. Those are large buttons with large drop-down menus, and in the menu you have large buttons again. Tray check buttons, those are the on-off buttons, checkboxes basically. Tray radio buttons, all buttons in all radio buttons in a tray act as one radio group, so you can only enable one. Small drop-down menus, and then the check buttons and radio buttons. The combo box. And here are all the tray controls, all the controls that can be put in a horizontal tray. Okay, let's have a look at that in real life. Compile this application, and here is the application. So this is a tab, a ribbon tab, and this one has large buttons. So those are normal buttons. These are check buttons. If you see, it remains checked. I can check them on and off. And there's this drop-down menu with large menu items in here and large images. Small items, small buttons, and you see there's 3 buttons in a column. Tray buttons, again horizontally aligned buttons, and they can be buttons, they can be check buttons like here, or they can be radio buttons where only one in the group can be enabled. And you can have data fields like length, width. Then you can have a combo box. For example, you choose a value from the combo box, and then we update the data fields accordingly. You have the small drop-down menu. You have the check boxes here. It's actually, yeah, and radio buttons here. So pretty amazing new controls for your applications, right? Here are all the items that can be in a tray. A tray is a horizontal aligned object that contains multiple childs, basically. So you have a button, you have a check button, you have a combo box, you have a data field, you have a drop-down menu, and let's see what that one is, radio button. Should be multiple really to make any sense out of it, but whatever. Then you have APIs to control and access the data in all of these objects. For example, here's a combo box which is currently empty, and I can add items to that combo box by API calls. So now that combo box includes item A, includes yellow submarine, and I can add as many things I want to. Green submarine. I can also clear that combo box again with an API. So see, full control for the controls in a ribbon bar. Then you can enable and disable items. So disable items in group 2. You have here group 1, group 2. If I disable group 2, you see those are grayed out, and I can enable those back in. Now they're enabled again. So you have methods to enable and disable ribbon items, and then you can set the caption and the contents of combo boxes, data fields, and everything. So set text, set caption, and you see that this changes everything accordingly. So a full set of APIs available for you to control the ribbon bars. Now let's have a little look at, at the, for example, disable, enable. Call enable, though that's a function. And you see the method being used there, style ribbon set item enabled. And you basically pass in a Boolean variable, and that decides if that should be enabled or disabled. So a number of ribbon methods to allow you full control of the new ribbon bar. We are close to developer now. Let's look at the progress bar then. The progress bar, you can see it here. And let's look at the code for a bit. Here's the item itself, the progress bar, and there's an increment button. If you click on that one, And what I do is I set the step size, meter set step size. There's a data field in my application that contains the size for the step, and then I do a meter step up. So basically it takes the step size from here and then does the step up, and then it gets the value of the progress bar and puts it in another data value to show the current progress in percent. I'm using percent here, could be anything that you want. So here's the minimum, maximum. This is the step size. You know, I could change that to 65 and do increment, and then you see it increments by 65. You can display the progress bar vertically or horizontally. You can get the color range or set the color range. Let me set the color range from here to here, and set color range. Then you see it changes, and if I decrement here, see that's how that new progress bar works. Quite nice, right? So what other things? You can save and load the state of a grid, including if it has a summary bar enabled, if it has the group by box open, if it has group by columns, if it has ordered by columns, and all that will be saved to an XML file, and you can load that XML files to present your users the last version of the customized grid they use, for example. Grid background color for rows and cells. You can change the item parent of a tree to quickly move around subtrees of a tree or branches of a tree. A new tree function to select the item by a data value. Trees basically have an index or primary key field, I would say, for every item, and you can not only select the tree item by the data, but you can also select it by the primary key. You can set the image from a binary variable. So here's, for example, a customized grid, and you could save that grid state to an XML file and apply that later on, and then it would look exactly the same. Here's the XML file that contains all the descriptions we need to load that at runtime. Like this is a group by column. This is number 1 of the group by columns, and all these things that we need to assign the proper settings here. So let's see how that works with the grid. Some of you might have watched on YouTube that grid sample, country, zip, save grid state, run it again, restore grid state. See, that's how it should work. Then the tree, another little application that shows what changed in the tree. I mentioned the tree index. Find tree item by data, so that's basically searching for the primary key in the tree. And what I did is I assigned basically a number values to each of the tree items here, starting with 0, I think. So if I enter 2 here, it selects green. And now this one is really nice as well. Move sub items, move the entire branch to a new parent item here, which is quite handy for handling trees. So other things in GUI controls. The date time picker show non-month days attribute. Basically, the date time picker has been made compatible with the date picker, which had all these things before. Show week numbers, show non, all these things. For MDI backgrounds, you can now set the theme gradient to be the MDI background. We have spell checking for .NET data fields, multi-line and rich text controls. You can set the properties of named toolbar items. And here is the new date time picker attributes. For example, you can see here the week numbers, and all those properties can be set now here. So this spell checking with Team Developer 6.2.NET applications. you enter something that is written wrong, then you can right mouse click and you will see the suggested edits. And here's the name toolbar API. I will show you that in a live demo here. Name toolbar demo. So with name toolbars, you can now enable and disable items. I can put in disable item number 1, and it's a zero-based index here. So if I disable one, this one gets disabled. I can re-enable that one. I can set the text of a toolbar item, and I'm using the text coming from this data field. You see it's new text. Set the tooltip to something different. If I move on here, the tooltip is new tooltip. I can set the color of an item at runtime. I can retrieve the item count, and I can create new buttons. See this? And every new button gets an item ID that will allow you to trap the click message then. And in the click message, you can retrieve, you can query for the item ID and find out what button has been clicked. So new button, toolbar button ID 2485 has been clicked. And of course, the docking orientation can be top, bottom, left, right. So you have all the settings with named toolbars now. .NET spell checking, quick demonstration on that one. Compile the .NET application here and run it. And let me see if I can misspell something. So I didn't write team right here. So it suggests team, and I can correct that. And that's basically the same here for all editable objects. That's the rich text control. See, nice new feature here. And if you look at the code or the definitions here, you basically have a data field. And in attribute inspector, the only thing you do is you set spell check to yes. That's it, really. Other things in Team Developer 6.2. Team Object Manager has been moved to be a TD 6.2 Win32 application, meaning it's using the new themed look and feel of Team Developer 6.x. And this is how it looks. Actually, this multi-column list box is part of .NET now as well, and you can use that on .NET now. But this is Team Object Manager having the new themed look and feel. Now Report Builder. The new charting control available in TD 6.1 is now available in Report Builder 6.2. And then one other thing is in Report Builder 6.2, you can repeat a column header on column break. So if the contents of a column create a next column, then the header will be reprinted on the on the next column. So here are the properties of the new charting control in Report Builder. And you see there's a number of 2D and 3D charts that you can choose from, and you have tons of properties that you can use to define your business charts in your reports. And of course, it will take over those reports and properties that you have defined in your existing reports as well. And here's how it could look. You know, that's a simple approach to a report in Report Builder 6.2. So, Team Developer 6.2 summary: fun and productivity with a new IDE. A lot of .NET power with powerful debugging features, 64-bit .NET applications, new exception handling, beauty and functionality with a rich new ribbon bar, progress bar, and many enhancements to grid, tree, and other controls. So here we go with the questions answer session. I would like to ask you to put your questions into the WebEx question tool, because that is the place where I will look for. So there are a number of questions already, and I will go through them. One question is the 64-bit compiler option supported by the command line arguments of CBI 6.2.exe? I must admit that I don't know, and I need to find out and let you know after this webinar. Can you have more than one row in a ribbon bar tray item? I don't think so. A ribbon bar tray is one row. If you want another row, you can put another tray item below it. Then the next question is, where do the suggestions come from using spell checking in every data fields? Is there an enclosed dictionary somewhere? Well, it's using the built-in Windows.NET spell checking, and the spell checking, and that's another question, is available in multiple languages. Actually, I'm using here a German version, and that automatically adapts to the locale of the computer. So on a German machine, it will provide German spell checking. Only I used an English term now, though that might have been a little bit confusing. And there's lots of questions coming in. Let me just scroll back here. I read about the SQLBase plugin for Visual Studio. Is that here? That's coming with the SQLBase 11.7 Service Pack 1 in a few weeks. There's a question, is there an API function to create new ribbon icons? At the moment, no. No, you have to define those upfront, but then you have full control over those. Spell checking in Win32 we currently don't have. And there's a question, when will 6.2 be available? It is available as of today, and you can download it already from our website. We have a updated website that has all the information about TD 6.2. eGLS has been updated, so if you need to get your GLS TMCs, you can already get them from eGLS. Then there's a question, is the 64-bit feature included in any 6.2 packs, or are there different license packs? The 64-bit feature is part of the standard TeamDeveloper.NET license and does not require additional upgrade payments or something like that. Another question is, are the old isolation levels still good for 6.2 as well as RC? Yes, of course, you can continue to use the old isolation levels with 6.2. No problem. If you don't have any performance issues, you can still continue to use those ones. The ribbon bar can change the position of the buttons horizontal to vertical, not at runtime. That's things that you need to find up front. And for the ribbon bar, there's a question if the icon can be set at runtime. I must admit that I don't know exactly. There might be a function for that, but would need to check and come back to you on that one. Okay, let me just open the website here. On the home page, you see we advertise Team Developer 6.2, and if you click on the 6.2 pages, then in the What's New page, you get all the details here, and many more things. There's a lot of actually a lot of videos already available on YouTube if you want to look at specific things that I didn't go into much detail today because that's really an overview session today. I will add more and more videos in the coming weeks, so check our social networking site for new things. And with that, I really want to end this webinar. It looks like I answered all the questions and would like to thank you for attending this, and go grab your copy of Team Developer 6.2 and see what it can do for your applications. Thank you, and see you soon again.